As well as being inspired by fairy tales, the Black Soul series also draws inspiration from H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, with a pantheon's worth of great old ones turned into cute girls. But there is one great old one that's been seemingly working behind the scenes. In fact, we don't even see any visual representation of them in the series so far. That being the King in Yellow, Hastur. No, the idiot doesn't count. We get a rough idea of what he looks like thanks to Mary Sue's Poundland version that appears in the Chaos Dungeon. Despite being classed as part of the Cthulhu mythos, Hastur was originally from the short story Aita the Shepherd by Ambrose Bierce. Robert W. Chambers then featured the deity in his collection of short stories, The King in Yellow, where Hastur was both a malevolent entity and also a plague, and had a great effect with artists. And of course, this game of Elder God Telephone results in H.P. Lovecraft featuring Hastur in his novella, The Whisperer in the Darkness, inspired by Chambers. Hastur was only briefly mentioned in the book, but he was still deemed significant enough to feature in Black Souls, where he has at least one confirmed garden, the Crimean Nursing Graveyard. The Crimean Nursing Graveyard is treated as a separate garden to the rest of DLC 3's Winterbell. It was seemingly part of Wonderland, even connected to or in partnership with the Mental Ward. In the Florence's diary, she mentions there being an endless flood of patients in both hospitals, before being exiled along with the Crimean hospital itself. The nursing hospital gameplay-wise is a lot more hostile than previous areas, with high-powered and mortal enemies, well, sort of, and a lot heavier on the horror aspect of the game, only really rivaled by the visual novel section seen later in DLC 3. Of course, this is the game's way of introducing the player to the greatly elevated difficulty of DLC 3, but there is also a lore reason for this, trust me, I'll get into it later. The only mention pre-DLC 3 is by an NPC at the tavern in Lutwich, calling his name in Alice speak, but Hastur is mentioned by a few of the quote-unquote sane inhabitants of the garden. The Sackhead girl screams his name shortly before exploding if you try and rape her, stating the following: "My brain swells and festers, the King in Yellow will dominate my soul." Jekyll says that we're all God's lambs, and of course, Hastur is referred to as the god of shepherds. Florence has spent so long in this purgatory that she'd lost a human form, and everyone is hopelessly addicted to the immortality fluid. The Sackhead girl only explodes if you don't get her a fix before trying to shag her. The fluid in question was derived from star pests that infest the hospital. It's interesting to note that some of these happenings are going on while the hospital was still very much part of Wonderland. Florence's diary entries about losing her human form and discovering the immortality effects of the Star Viscera occur before the one about the exile. Perhaps this was punishment for using the star fluid. Well, one would think that the rotting alive and addiction aspects were already sufficient punishment. So that's all that the game gives us. Now, before I get to theorize, I just want to debunk something I've seen floating around YouTube comment sections. That is the idea that Jabberwock is Hastur. The main explanation behind this theory is that Hastur parented Nug and Yeb, children of Yog-Sothoth and Shub-Niggurath, similar to how Jabberwock parented Mary Sue/Nug. But Jabber was never a creator. Sure, she was a great one and guided Mary Sue when she made Elysium, but in her boss fight and ending, G says her goal was to become a creator. She never had those powers to begin with, she just observed and thus raised Mary Sue to have the blackest soul possible do her dirty work. Therefore, she couldn't have altered the hospital and created a new garden containing it. Oh, but Mav, what if she just got Mary Sue to do it, like with Elysium? That's only really possible if this happened before the events of Black Souls 1, where Jabberwock was in Elysium and Mary Sue was, of course, playing the part of Leaf. And let's be real here, with how much Mary likes to brag about her work, we'd have seen at least some mention of her creating this unnamed garden. So, Hastur is very much a new and separate character, and will from this point on be represented by this design of mine. I wanted to emulate the style of the waifu avatars of the Great Ones with Lolita clothing, but also keeping to the King in Yellow and Sheep and Shepherd theme. I do think I may have got a bit overboard in the Lolita and should have made her outfit a tad more revealing. I do very much expect this to age poorly when we see the real Hastur. Anyways, we can still speculate on her motives given info from the game and the Lovecraft mythos. In The Whisper in the Darkness, it is revealed that Hastur is an enemy of the old gods and opposed their work on Earth, and followers of Hastur attacked the Migo, which served Nyarlathotep and Shub-Niggurath. Now, the entrance to the Crimean War Graveyard is located in the Carroll River, where the Migo and fungi of Yoggoth spawn. Also, when the conditions for DLC 3 are met, a Winter Witch and Winter Warrior spawn outside the gateway. While the Winter Witch and Warrior serve the Light Queen node, and were guarded at door to prevent Grim from accessing Winterbell and Grand Guignol, the first area you access in DLC 3 is the Nursing Graveyard. So they may have also been guarding against Hastur's followers, or preventing Grim from interacting with Hastur. The high difficulty and horror elements are a self-defense mechanism of the Nursing Graveyard Garden, in case Migo enter, with Grim of course caught in the crossfire. These prove that Hastur's feud against the other old gods is very much alive and well in the Black Souls series, and this also provides a motive as to why she would steal a whole chunk of Wonderland, as vengeance or punishment for Nyarlathotep's transgressions against the real world. This bit is a bit of a stretch, but Migo are said to be able to remove people's brains in order to send them to Pluto and other outer worlds, similar to how many real-world historical figures were kidnapped to place in Wonderland. Since Florence was taken, I think she disagrees with the Crawling One about seeing real-world historical figures for the land, and since in the books Hastur opposed the old gods' work on Earth, of course, this is Black Souls, she can't just put them safely back in their own timelines. Instead, she corrupts and steals the offending section of Wonderland, imprisoning those still inside to get back at the Crawling One. Her plan took a long time to execute too, as it was done gradually with the introduction of the Star Pests, taking Florence's humanity and plaguing everyone with the Viscera, forced the entire hospital to exile the staff. This was done very stealthily too. May wasn't even registered as a garden when he kept her on the stairs, so some of the old gods just didn't know, or maybe she didn't want to recognize as a true and honest guardian because the Migo served her ex-wife, Shub-Niggurath, therefore giving her a personal grudge against Hastur. While I don't think we'll see Hastur in Dead Red Hood, I think she'll definitely be a major character in Black Souls 3. Black Souls 3 is theorized to be about the Garden War and Grim preventing or trying to prevent the awakening of the Idiot. The Great Ones create their gardens to wield their authority, and the collision of gardens will cause the Garden War, which subsequently awakens the Idiot, Azathoth. With Hastur weaponizing the Crawling One's own garden against her, she's already gotten close to colliding gardens, and thus will absolutely have a big role in this battle. The Yellow Sign, Hastur's followers, who's been attacking the Migo, would absolutely follow suit as well. Thank you all for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Like if you enjoyed the video, or dislike if you thought it was a load of wank, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.